Let's start with our first news. Arman reacts to the intense press conference from last night, saying he has not seen a moment like that in a very long time. Dana reveals that Arman is now the official backup fighter for Ilya vs. Justin Gaethje, adding major tension to the upcoming fight card. During the face-off, Dana explained how everything was under control, mentioning that he was holding Arman's arms, but still the unexpected kick landed. He admitted he did not see the kick coming and said it frustrated him, especially because he always tries to prevent such chaotic moments on stage. Dana also emphasized that if there had been fewer people on stage, the situation would have been much harder to control. He further confirmed that Arman is officially stepping in as backup for the White House fight, ready to replace any fighter if needed. This announcement immediately sparked strong reactions, especially from Ilya, as the stakes for the fight card continue to rise. Ilya's reaction reflected surprise and focus, acknowledging the challenge ahead as Arman enters the picture as a dangerous backup option. The entire situation has added even more excitement to the upcoming showdown, with fans now watching closely for any changes. With tensions already high from the press conference, this latest update about Arman being the official backup fighter has only intensified anticipation around the event. Fans and analysts believe this decision could play a crucial role in shaping the fight week narrative, especially if any changes occur at the last moment. Overall, the development sets up a dramatic lead into the fight, with Arman standing ready as a high-level replacement option if either fighter cannot compete, ensuring the main event remains intact and competitive under any circumstances going forward as excitement continues to build globally. Move on to another news. Tom Aspinall predicts Cortes Acosta to beat Volkov. Tom Aspinall says Volkov has been in about 700 fights at this point. He has faced everyone in the division and spent years at the top. He believes Volkov is a highly experienced fighter. Sometimes he looks unbelievable, sometimes just good, and the question is which version will appear on Saturday. He explains that Cortes Acosta is skillful for a big heavyweight, moves well, has a good jab, good footwork, and real knockout danger. Volkov, however, is a veteran, strong in the cage, with reach and control, and it will not be easy to walk through him. Tom says Volkov has both size and strength, not just height, and he can manage pressure well inside the octagon. He adds that grappling could be key, because if Volkov gets on top, he has strong ground and pound and submission skills. Cortes Acosta is dangerous with his striking, always looking for the big shot, and must be careful against the veteran. Tom concludes that this is a very competitive matchup and either fighter could take the win, depending on execution. He emphasizes that experience may favor Volkov, but power and athleticism could swing things in Cortes Acosta's direction. Fans are divided. Some believe Volkov's experience will control the fight, while others think Cortes Acosta's explosiveness could decide it early. Tom also mentions that octagon IQ will be crucial, especially in exchanges where both fighters are most dangerous. He says small mistakes against a veteran like Volkov can be costly, particularly if he gains top position. Cortes Acosta must stay disciplined, use movement, and avoid getting stuck in grappling exchanges for too long. Tom finally says that fans should expect a tactical battle, with momentum swings and high-level adjustments throughout the fight. He highlights that both fighters are experienced, durable, and capable of changing the fight at any moment. Overall, he leans slightly toward Cortes Acosta, believing his speed and power could create problems for Volkov if he finds his rhythm early. However, he also warns that Volkov's experience means the fight could easily swing the other way if he controls distance and timing from the start, so nothing is guaranteed in this heavyweight clash at all. Done. Move on to another news. Daniel Cormier believes Sean Strickland could potentially wear Khamzat out if he is able to successfully defend the early takedown attempts and force a longer fight on the feet. He explains that in watching Khamzat's last performance against Duplessis, Khamzat was in exactly the position he wanted for the entire fight, controlling where the action took place, and never really being forced into deep defensive exchanges. Even then, Cormier notes that there was still a slight level of fatigue as the fight progressed, despite the lack of heavy resistance. According to Cormier, the key question is what happens if Sean Strickland can actually make those takedowns difficult. If he can defend early shots, stay upright, and extend exchanges into later rounds, then there is a possibility that Khamzat begins to slow down physically and mentally under pressure. However, he also makes it clear that the reality of championship-level fighters is different. Once a fighter has already been through a 5-round fight, their conditioning and pacing naturally improve. He points out that the first time Khamzat went into a full 25-minute environment, it was still a learning experience, but also a dominant one in terms of control. The main concern for Strickland would be whether he can maintain enough defensive responsibility to avoid being repeatedly taken down. Cormier stresses that if Khamzat is allowed to establish top position consistently, it becomes extremely difficult for any opponent to build momentum or force fatigue on him. Strickland's best path, according to the analysis, would be constant pressure, defensive awareness, and forcing Khamzat to work in extended striking exchanges where volume and cardio can become a factor. But even that comes with risk, because Khamzat is dangerous in every phase of the fight. The discussion ultimately highlights a stylistic clash, where grappling control meets volume striking and endurance testing over multiple rounds. Cormier suggests that while Strickland has a theoretical path to wear Khamzat down, executing it against an elite grappler of that level is one of the hardest tasks in the division. He emphasizes that Khamzat's ability to dictate position early often removes the opportunity for opponents to test his cardio in meaningful ways. Still, if Strickland can survive the early storm, the later rounds could become much more competitive than expected, especially in a high-paced championship environment where small openings can shift momentum quickly. Move on to another news. Khamzat believes a move to light heavyweight could become very real, especially with champion Carlos Ulberg currently absent from the picture. Fights against names like Magomed Ankalaev or even Paulo Costa at 205 would be massive from a promotional standpoint. Ankalaev would test Khamzat against an elite dangerous champion-level fighter with serious wrestling and striking, while Costa would be pure chaos and entertainment with the amount of trash talk alone. Khamzat makes it clear he does not care about leaving the UFC undefeated and says he only wants big fights and big moments. He explains there is no big thing left for him at middleweight after this fight. He believes staying there would be like Russian roulette and there is no point in taking the same risks repeatedly. He says he wants big names and big money fights, not easy fights. He mentions Alex Pereira as a massive option and says that is exactly the kind of fight he wants. He also says if that does not happen, he is willing to move to heavyweight for the right opportunity. He confirms he is focused on big fights, big names, and big moments. Only the message is clear. He is chasing legacy-defining fights rather than staying active in one division. His ambition is now centered on super fights and elite matchups across multiple weight classes. This includes potential clashes that bring maximum attention and global interest to his career. He is positioning himself as a fighter willing to challenge anyone regardless of size or reputation. The focus remains on impact fights that define eras and create massive pay-per-view events. This mindset shows a clear shift toward legacy hunting rather than traditional title defense paths. It also highlights how the landscape of MMA is changing with fighters chasing bigger opportunities. He continues to push for fights that bring worldwide attention and elevate his status across divisions. Fans and analysts now see him as a potential wild card in multiple divisions, including light heavyweight and heavyweight. His willingness to move up or down adds another layer of unpredictability to future matchmaking discussions. This keeps him at the center of conversation for the biggest fights in the sport. Overall, he is fully committed to pursuing high-stakes bouts that define his career trajectory going forward across multiple divisions and elite competition levels worldwide. Done. Now move on to another news. Concerns rise for Khamzat after the weigh-in. Both Khamzat and Sean Strickland successfully made weight today, confirming that tomorrow's main event is official. However, attention quickly shifted to Khamzat's appearance on the scale, which raised concerns among fans and analysts. He looked visibly drained, and many observers described him as dejected and struggling. There was a moment of uncertainty backstage, with questions about whether everything was going smoothly during the final weight check. When the scale finally settled, it showed 185 pounds, confirming he made the middleweight limit. Some even joked about his fight gear, suggesting his underwear may have been adding unnecessary weight, but the overall tone remained serious as his condition drew attention. His demeanor stood out as he appeared exhausted, barely showing any emotion during the official weigh-in process. Commentators noted how different he looked compared to his usual self, pointing out that he appeared extremely depleted. Despite moving up from welterweight, where he also cut weight, many felt this middleweight cut looked even more severe and draining on his body. Concern grew further as analysts discussed how tough the cut appeared, with comparisons being made to his past weight cuts. They noted that although he has always been known for intense preparation, this one seemed especially difficult. Fans online also reacted strongly, saying he looked more drained than usual, especially since he was the last fighter to step on the scale with only minutes remaining. The timing added even more tension to the situation. Media voices like Ariel Helwani also reacted, describing it as a rough cut for Khamzat, highlighting the visible strain on his face and body language during the weigh-in. Despite all the concerns, the fight remains official, and attention now shifts toward how he will recover before fight night. Analysts believe his performance will depend heavily on how well he rehydrates and restores energy after such a difficult cut. For now, questions remain about how much the weight cut will affect his endurance and explosiveness inside the octagon, especially against an opponent like Strickland, who is known for pushing a high pace over 5 rounds. The focus now moves from the scale to fight night, where all doubts will finally be answered inside the cage under full pressure and spotlight. Move on to another news. Khamzat weight controversy explodes after dramatic UFC weigh-in. Earlier in the morning, Khamzat was reportedly 2 pounds over the 185 pounds middleweight limit, with only about 1 hour remaining to make weight. As the deadline approached, tension built backstage, with cameras and officials closely watching every movement. With around 20 minutes left on the clock, Khamzat rushed onto the stage and stepped on the scale. Witnesses say he stood there for only a few seconds before the commission immediately announced 185 pounds, confirming the main event as official. However, moments later he stepped off quickly, only to be called back for photos. Not for another official measurement. This rapid sequence immediately triggered debate among fans and analysts. Many argued that the scale appeared to hit the upper limit forcefully, suggesting he may have been slightly over the limit at the time of stepping on. Others pointed out that the scale did not appear to fully stabilize before the number was called. Social media quickly exploded with reactions, with some users claiming the reading was rushed and not properly balanced. Critics argued that the bar on the scale continued moving during the announcement, which raised questions about accuracy and procedure. Others insisted that the commission followed standard protocol and that the result was legitimate. Several posts described the moment as suspicious, saying the scale appeared to jump upward and touch the top, while others dismissed the claims as over-analysis from fans. Comparisons were also made to previous controversial weigh-ins in combat sports history. Despite the debate, the official result remains unchanged, and the fight is still set to go ahead as planned. Khamzat successfully made weight according to the commission, and the main event was formally confirmed shortly after. However, the controversy continues to trend online, with divided opinions about what truly happened on the scale. Some believe it was a normal weigh-in under pressure, while others remain unconvinced and continue to question the accuracy of the process under strict deadlines and high-stakes environment. Overall, the situation has intensified discussion around weigh-in procedures and officiating standards in high-profile fights, with fans closely monitoring every detail leading into fight night as anticipation continues to build around the main event. The debate reflects how closely modern fight fans analyze every moment from the scale to the cage, without any clear final consensus yet. Move on to another news. Dana White claims Conor will return to MMA this summer. Dana White says he is extremely confident that Conor will fight this year and that they will get him dialed in and ready to roll. He adds that Conor is training right now and footage of his preparation has already surfaced. Dana is asked when and where the fight will happen and against whom, but he says nothing is officially announced yet. He confirms Conor will fight this summer and says that is the starting point of all plans. He explains Conor has been great for the UFC and the UFC has been great for him over the years. He also says he believed it would happen last year, but now he is extremely confident it will happen this summer. He adds that Conor seems motivated, training hard, and there are positive signs behind the scenes. He says money ruins everything in fighting, and especially when fighters become very rich, it becomes harder to stay motivated. He explains Conor made huge money not just from fighting but also from outside business ventures, and that changed everything. He says it is difficult to get up and get punched when you already have that level of financial security. He notes Conor is one of the few fighters in both UFC and boxing history to successfully build massive wealth from his personality and career. He believes that despite all doubts, Conor still has the motivation and structure around him to make a major return this summer and deliver another massive moment in combat sports history. Dana White remains confident that everything is aligned for a comeback fight and that training footage continues to support that timeline. Expect more updates as summer approaches and negotiations progress behind scenes now.